Welcome to This Just In with This Just In as your host, Justin Corr. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories most important to you with the people who bring you those stories. The guy moving that mug out of the shot, which only drew more attention to it. Trained professional, returning political insider, and 208 staple, it's Joe Parris.
You just stared at it. I thought you'd maybe no-sell it. It made it look like the quote was coming out of the cup. People know the only thing in these cups are lead.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, lead.
I heard there was a guest on your show that drank out of one of these, and
they were about to. A lot of people have tried, and I'm like, stop, don't do that. Yes, for your safety, please don't drink.
So it's not true that some of your guests are now getting like X-Men-like powers.
I mean, that may be true, but it's unrelated to the mugs. Joe.
Yes.
Your X-Men power right now, being a great dad. You were just remarking
that you I look so tired.
You look very tired. Yeah. No, you look fine.
You got to moisturize.
Fine. But you right there. Yeah. You going shopping?
You want to sponsor
with those
me?
Bags? Yes, Neutrogena. Hey, This Just In, open for business.
Do you look tired? We've got something for you. How about it's like a coffee, like instead of drinking the coffee, you rub it on your face. From the maker of the Cobb Gobbler. Yeah, why not?
The maker of the Cobb
When
Gobbler.
I was in college, I had a shaving cream that had caffeine in it, and my roommate was
I've heard of it.
I don't think it did anything.
No.
And he just made fun of me.
Yeah.
I was like, why wouldn't it work?
Probably.
They do medicine via the patch.
Some medicines work like that. Others don't.
Is caffeine not?
Yeah, when you have a headache, do you just take a Tylenol and just rub that?
Well, no, because it's not synthesized for that. But if we put it in patch form.
So the caffeine in the shaving cream, was that is that patch form? Like, what do you?
Well, no, I mean, it was like a dermal.
Gotcha.
But I don't think it did. It did feel nice. It
Really?
definitely had menthol in it, yeah.
That's something.
You know, they stopped selling it, though, so I do wonder if it got taken off the market. It was on the FDA's 10 most wanted list.
10 most wanted.
It's on, like, their must-watch radar. Like, this is a product you have to watch.
There are raids on a Walgreens or a CVS. Are you selling this caffeine shaving cream? Joe, thanks for taking care of the opening 3-minute chat for me right there. Appreciate it. You're always great at that. Real quick, before we move on and talk about Idaho politics and the merging of politics with pro wrestling, when are you going to try to take over the show as you always do?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm good for now.
It's going to happen. I've done my research. But, Joe, let's start with that.
Were you in here
You
earlier?
Well,
were you in the studio earlier? Andy, he might have been in here.
This is my home field. I know what's going to happen. I might not always have control of it or ever, but I do know what to expect. That's just fine. So,
like in Spider-Man Far From Home where everything was just an illusion? That's this show.
Yeah.
These walls aren't. None of this is real. Do the people know that? This is all a green screen.
It is all a green screen.
None
Absolutely.
Of this is
like
nothing.
Yeah, I'm pushing through that.
None of this.
You're not even real. You're actually zooming from home.
I'm actually at home. That's why I look so tired.
This is actually your voice over an AI model. So yeah, this is the future, everybody. Super creepy.
Does anybody watch this? Like, are they gonna get into like this far into this and be like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean?
Dragging me right here? Does anybody watch this show?
No, I mean this.
Oh.
This great report. No, I see the numbers on this show.
It gets some numbers.
If you were a numbers guy, though, you would just have Jude Binkley every week.
It's no. No, he actually Madison Proof, I think, is my highest rated show of the year. Yeah. Local Idaho rapper. Enough said. Let's talk about what inspired you to be a political reporter.
Sure.
Joe, what do you like about politics?
In 2015, I was a student at the University of Colorado in Boulder.
Boo.
And
I'm just
go
kidding.
Buffs.
I'm just kidding.
That's a Cornhuskers thing.
Good school. Great school, actually.
Great school. University of Colorado. That's where I grew up. They had a presidential debate in 2015 on CNBC. And as a student
the school?
At the school.
Wow.
At the basketball stadium there, Coors Event Center. And so it was pretty early in the process, too. So, there was, a bunch of candidates that were there. So, Trump was there. Ben Carson was there.
Wow.
Carly Fiorina was. So, a ton.
Whoa.
And then a bunch of Dems showed up on campus, too, to kind of, counter programs. I remember, talking to Martin O'Malley. So it was like an unbelievable experience to get to go in the spin room, to get to go be a part of the coverage. Yeah, so I got hooked, and I'm still chasing that. But it's so funny just to think back to like that part of the. So this would have been, I guess, maybe the fall of 2015.
Okay.
And to think about the perceptions of Donald Trump at the time to where it is now, it's just amazing. Because at the time, he was covered, but people were focused on other candidates. And I remember watching the debates, and there were so many like highlights from that debate with the president that's like, this was game changing the way he handled it.
At the time, people were like, he's good TV, but he has no chance of winning. And then all of a sudden, here he is now in his second term. Man, I get that hooking you. That would be cool to see all that in person.
I remember too, like explaining. So we did a student show that accidentally got covered as an official CNN live feed. So we got a ton of coverage, and we had a link out, and the link was somehow mistaken for the actual live stream coverage from CNN.
Whoa!
And it was pushed not by CNN, but somebody else pushed it out. Here's live coverage from the University of Colorado. So we got a ton of traffic on it. And it actually was Emmy nominated at the college level. We did not win, but we lost to something. But it was really cool as like a full student production. It got me hooked, not only on politics, but on the business of television, because it was working with all my friends, and we all had different expertises, where I wanted to be the reporter, and my friend Greg was the engineer, and he put the whole thing together. I had friends that were producers. I remember working with some other reporters, like at the college newspaper. So like it was this unbelievable 2-day event, and I'll never forget it. And I'm still chasing that feeling.
Well, you'll get back there.
I got close to it though recently.
You'll be moderating one of those things, and you were recently in D.C.
Yeah.
Speaking of chasing that, before we go to that, we'll hit that after the break. If there was something about politics, nationally, locally, statewide, that you wish the average citizen understood, what would that be?
I think it would be, more than anything else, that most of the time, the Republicans, Democrats, everyone in between, behind the scenes are friends or friendly. And I think there's a lot of times on social media and the cable news networks, and maybe like, social media videos is really one lens into it all. When I went to Washington, D.C. recently, I was pleasantly surprised as to how people who I had seen on TV arguing, and you would think they would never even look at each other.
Yes.
They're fist bumping in the hallway and asking how each other's families are. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't get heated during debates, and it doesn't mean that there isn't, that they're not all best buddies. But the way that they conduct themselves, even though they are on opposite sides of the spectrum, for example, I was with Senator Jim Risch, and he and John Fetterman walked by each other in the hallway, and they fist bumped. How you doing, man? Hey, good to see you. John Fetterman, by the way, is a giant person. He is so big. He comes barreling towards us. I'm like, it's a large person.
Look at.
But no, I mean, like, it's not that there's a personal beef between these people for the most part. There are certainly people that don't like each other.
Right.
But to see so many people that I recognize from the national, federal level being genuine with each other, and they seem like they actually like, oh, how are you? It was something I wish Americans could see.
So I saw that as well on the state level when I was working sort of behind the scenes at the State House. Do you think it would be better if we saw more of that, more sort of people looking for common ground during debates? Or do you think, look, the point of a debate is to win?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it too is marketing. Like, people get mobilized by certain emotions, and unfortunately some of those emotions are negative. And you understand, and it's not always intentional.
Most of the emotions that mobilize people are probably negative.
I mean, fear, anger, worry, and I understand that. We're all human beings. I wish people could see the behind the scenes, and even it's not like it's hidden. It's not like these people are hiding in the back rooms and then they become friends. They're in the hallways. They're in public places. Yeah. And it happened at the State House too.
Right.
When I first started covering Idaho politics here, I was pleasantly surprised to do interviews with people on the same topic. Be like, boy, these people probably would not even want to be in the same room. Yeah. And then weeks later, seeing them asking, like, how are your kids? Oh, how's your farm? Like, I wish people could see that. And unfortunately, people don't have the time to go down to the State House and okay, let's see who can be friends here. And that's why we have our job. And maybe this is a good thing for us to look at too.
I think that's why it's important that you went to D.C. But do you think it's harmful though that people see that and they believe that they need to be that I don't want to say passionate, but that
That's a good word.
just like Congress looks very divided, that they should be that divided and should be that divisive with, say, their neighbor who maybe has a different opinion on something.
And this is actually a conversation we had in D.C. where, like, the people that are most passionate, we can say, do feel like they're, and this is both sides, by the way, of the aisle, that there's no room for common ground, where if you're candidate A or if you're person A, I think you're deplorable, I think you're a terrible person, and I don't particularly care, you know, what common ground we can find because you have done X, Y, and Z, and I cannot associate with you. And that's just how it is right now in politics. Yep. And it is funny because, like, people are like, that's the worst it's ever been. Let's just, as a reminder, we had a civil war, like, in this country. Like,
Hold on.
You know what I mean? Like, you remember that?
Search that up. Oh my gosh.
Were you covering that for 7?
Wow.
Was that?
Wow.
When you were a rookie?
Wow.
Anyways, but no, the long story short is
that's all the time we have for Joe Parris. No,
I talked with Dr. Charlie Hunt, though, at Boise State about this, about how, like, distant the sides are right now and what it would take to come back to the middle. And you'll need a real unifier who, unfortunately, will have to break through party lines. And that's tough right now because it's really red versus blue.
Because how is that person going to get elected?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Well, really interesting conversation, Joe. And again, you recently took that trip to D.C. and you got the Idaho delegation to answer viewer questions. That's coming up right after this. Welcome back to This Just In with political reporter, political insider, and good dude, Joe Parris.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, you can put that on your resume. Joe just got back from a trip to D.C. to talk with the Idaho delegation, and he there asked him questions from you, dear viewer. Let's take a look at what they said.
Bob in Boise, I believe, he says, it is predicted that in 8 years, Social Security costs will exceed its income. After many years of kicking the can down the road, what will you do to shore up Social Security so it can meet its future obligations?
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question because he's absolutely right. I mean, when they set this up, they knew for a fact that at some point in time it would be unfunded. So as a result of that, we're going to have to pick up the baton and fund it. Look, Social Security is part of the American fabric now. It's something that, much like the public lands issue we just discussed, it's something people want. It's part of their life. It's something they count on. We will do it, and I have every confidence that we will do it. And again, simply because people are so much behind this.
Jordan Gray from Meridian writes, on the rescissions package, he writes, why did they vote for the rescissions package and give away their power of the purse? Do you agree with that?
Well, no. I mean, actually, we voted to stop some spending, but that's power over the purse. And so we didn't give away our power over the purse. I think maybe what he's asking is, since the president recommended that package, why did we vote for it instead of having it come through the Appropriations Committee or something like that? But there's not an inconsistency there. The president recommended that to us because he acknowledged our power over that decision. And he was asking us to make that decision. And so even though it was something that he asked for, the point is we had the authority and we asserted that authority.
This is Sherry from Buell. Sherry writes, I'd like our delegation to answer what they're doing to update immigration policies, what they think about Dreamers. I want to know what they're going to do about the farm and construction worker shortage.
It's vitally important. Frankly, we need a legal workforce in the agricultural arena, but also in construction, and I said hospitality and other things too. And you know, the people I've met are good people. I tell this story all the time. I was in Mexico probably 12 years ago or so with a couple of our friends. Kathy and I went down there. And I was talking to a guy who was around, he came around the hotel and was cleaning up the yard and taking the dead leaves off trees and stuff like that. And Bruce and I went out and talked to him. We found out if he saved every dime he made for the year, didn't pay anything in taxes, took everything he got paid, could save it for a year, he could stay in the place we were staying for one night. That's how much he made. So if you're him and you got a wife and you got 2 kids, what are you going to do? You're going to try to improve your life. Sometimes that means coming to the United States, and that's what some of these people have done years ago. And we've got to respect that. And they're coming here to make a better living, and they've actually improved our economy and so I've been working on an ag immigration reform bill for several years. Bipartisan effort between me and 3 or 4 other Republicans and 3 or 4 Democrats. We've had it pass the House a couple times. I think we're getting closer to getting it done, but it's vital that it get done.
All right, let's go through these answers. Senator Risch said they're going to make sure Social Security continues. I've heard for a number of years from even like respected financial planners where it's like you cannot rely on that even though everybody has paid into it. Did it surprise you that he was like, yeah, that's a priority. We're going to make sure.
No, it didn't. Do you see what happened in France? What the French did when they started messing with Social Security? Rioting in the streets. I think, I should probably have had this in front of me if I was going to reference it, but I think in France what they did was they toyed with the idea of making the retirement age to get their Social Security program like higher.
Right.
Not good. So I think
Not gonna happen.
you can't mess with that. So no,
All right.
that didn't surprise me at all.
Senator Crapo defended the rescissions package and doing that really at the urging of the president, but said Congress still has the power of the purse. That being said, politically, a Republican going against President Trump would be political suicide, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I don't think that's the case here, to be honest, in my genuine opinion, with what Senator Crapo and what other members of the delegation were talking about. What I think you see in Congress, in my opinion, is you see a conservative fiscal policy that is very aggressive in terms of cutting spending, and that aligns with the priorities of the Republican majority in Idaho's delegation. There is certainly criticism and fair criticism of the way budgets have been cut, but if you are looking at the goal and the method of approaching that goal through a conservative lens, it's pretty much according to the books. It's very similar though to the state level where the governor can put out his budget and put out his ideas. It's up to the legislative branch to execute those. And this president and this Congress is, in terms of the conservative lawmakers, are pretty in lockstep, and they like the president's vision, and they are basically implementing. When I talked to, I can't remember the top of my head, but I talked to one of the members of the congressional delegation in the hallway. We were talking about the rescissions package. It was like, well, this is what the president said he was going to do, so I don't know why anyone is shocked by this.
Right.
You can disagree with it, but you shouldn't be surprised because the president ran on doing this.
Yeah, and Medicaid, Medicare, pretty controversial. But they did make changes on the Senate side, especially pulling out the sale of the federal lands, the public
Yes.
lands. So they were like, nah, this isn't going to fly, and they pulled it out of there.
Big win for the West.
Yeah, Congressman Simpson talked about his ag immigration reform bill. Idaho Dairymen's Association, there have been a big part of this, pushing for this for a number of years. It's been in the works for a number of years, but is it ever going to pass, especially now that immigration is just such a hot button issue?
I think, to be genuinely honest, the messaging from the White House has not been extremely clear, which has made the conversation a little difficult in the sense that the president has said things like, these industries, they need these workforce, but also like we need to make sure there's no illegal immigrants, and there's
Right.
in the president's words, there's no illegals, blah, blah, blah. So that whole conversation
Immigrants here illegally.
Right. It's a nuanced conversation, but Congressman Simpson and Congressman Russ Fulcher, who we also spoke with on our D.C. trip, you can check out his interview at ktv.com right now, actually. We had the conversation about how they believed in their political opinion and lens that the immigration issue is more understood now, and that I think the big hurdle that the Republican majority wanted to clear was action at the southern border. In their opinion, now that they believe that the border is secured, as Congressman Fulcher put it, and the open border policies from the Biden era, in their opinion, have been remedied, then they believe you can start to go into immigration. Congressman Fulcher telling me that the bottom line for him was that you need to have people come into the country legally and do this legally. However, as members of people in power and Congress in power, they need to create clear and understandable avenues for people to do this. And by coming here legally, I think there's also the nuance of that doesn't mean everyone's becoming an American citizen. Coming here legally means creating programs that, for example, are not just seasonal. So when we talk about the H-2A programs in agriculture, those are seasonal programs where the immigrants come in and they do the work for the
Planting season, growing season,
Right,
harvest
harvest
season.
season.
The problem is
the dairy industry is not seasonal.
Right.
And the construction industry is not seasonal. The hospitality industry is not seasonal. So in the majority opinion of the Idaho congressional delegation, there's an understanding of that. How it gets addressed remains to be seen.
you talked about Congressman Fulcher. You actually talked to him about the potential release of the Epstein files, really hot button issue now as well, not voted on before Congress went on their break. Talk to me about what Fulcher said about why that happened, and do you think the files will be released?
So Congressman Fulcher actually gave some nuance into this national headline that the United States House went on their August recess to simply avoid, the release of the Epstein files. And Congressman Fulcher told me that when they cut off debate, they were debating cryptocurrency. And first of all, he wanted to keep talking about regulations and currency and all, the crypto stuff. They ended debate. The members on the floor, from his perspective and his personal, experience, was they didn't know that debate was being ended on cryptocurrency, and that the next topic to be brought up by the Democrats, it was their turn to basically, introduce a topic, would have been releasing the Epstein files. So when they voted to end debate, they were not aware of what the other side was doing. Does that mean everybody in conservative leadership and Republican Party leadership knew that? I don't know. But Congressman Fulcher said very clearly in a soundbite that we had on Channel 7 was that he believes that there was young women that were badly abused and people need to be held accountable, and he believes that the files need to be released. So there was the nuance of, the United States House going on a break and, the Republican majority doesn't want the files released. And Congressman Fulcher said very clearly, we need to release these files. We need to dig into this. It is going to be a very tough situation. There is a new development every single day, and I think it is hard for the American public to find, tracking this. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes, off-record depositions. For example, they're subpoenaing evidence from the DOJ, and they want to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's very difficult because even if they do some of this, it's not off the record. It's protected depositions. Mm-hmm. The other thing that Congressman Fulcher mentioned is that, there's this narrative out there that the House, Republican-controlled House, doesn't want to release these files. The very next day, by the way, the Republican-controlled Oversight Committee in the House, they voted to, get this evidence going. So to the average American, I'm not sure how much this matters in terms of the spectrum of fixing housing costs, fixing inflation.
Right.
But it certainly is an issue that Republicans ran on, is releasing these files. So we'll see.
Yeah, and we've talked about sort of those other issues as well, but it seems like this is really the one thing a lot of people are talking about. Joe, we sort of already talked about it. You talked about how Congress is like pro wrestling. You've talked about that before as well, that they have these really hard, intense takes on the floor, and then they're all friends behind the scenes. I guess, spoiler alert, pro wrestling is scripted, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that next. Did I just ruin pro wrestling for you?
Yeah.
Text me and complain. More This Just In after this.
What?
Welcome back to This Just In with political reporter Joe Parris. Joe, you and I talk a lot about pro wrestling and politics because, as you've said before, they're the same.
They are.
Similar. Rather not similar.
I think a lot of things are like wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this show. Andy, Graphic 48. Put up Graphic 48. Welcome to This Joe In. I'm your host, Joe Parris. Justin, welcome to the program here, good brother. Let me ask you something. Is everything in life pro wrestling?
Let me tell you,
Yes.
So it's the question of whether perception is reality.
Yeah.
And in pro wrestling, perception is reality. And a guy who has run a major corporation before has talked about that. There are a lot of connections as well, political connections to pro wrestling, politics. Triple H, who runs creative for WWE, sits on the presidential council. Paul Levesque was just at the White House. They featured that trip on their second biggest show of the year. And for them, it's like, everything's hunky-dory. But as we've talked about before, sort of a divisive time in the country. So interesting for WWE to be celebrating that, but they seem to see that that is the case, that perception is reality. So if we continue to sell this as a 100% good thing, people will start to believe it. Honestly, a lot of political campaigns are run the exact same way.
Everything's wrestling. Everything's storyline. Everything's perception. Justin, if I wanted to, I could just cut into you right now and totally cut you down and talk about your silly tie and the way that you have your button undone, and we could do a whole storyline. We could do 6 weeks of us arguing here, and people would be interested in it because they would take sides. The thing is, they don't know that I don't care about your unbuttoned shirt. I think it looks nice.
Wow.
But if
thank
I
you.
take the
I
position,
think your haircut looks nice.
Thank you. Many people have been saying that. But that's the thing is, you know how easy it is for us to push the emotions and push the buttons, and to we can play videos and music to really put cues into people's heads. It's all wrestling. It's all pro wrestling. It's all theater. And when you mix it into real life, especially with social media now, it's hard sometimes for people to see what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And when we're telling stories, truthful, factual stories, we will often look for the emotion in there. Again, truthful, factual, but it's like if we want people to connect to these facts, to this truth, there needs to be something human there for them to latch on to.
Something you and I have talked about.
Joe, I'm going to cut you off because we're out of time.
All right,
Thank you for
fine.
joining me
back.
on this Joe In, apparently. Save that thought for next time. Comments or questions, text them to 208.
Do I get a part 2?
5614. A part?
Part 2.
Oh.
Morgan got a part 2. Do I
This
get a part
is
2?
like part 7.
No. I want
Use the hashtag Justin, not Joe, and see you next time.